Hi, my name is Michelle Scally Clarke. I am a spoken word poet, writer, performer, author, and teacher. And my work has always been inspired by my need of identity, of journey, of finding voice. And belonging and building bridges in communities kind of thing. Yeah. My creativity and my activism are they come hand in hand because my creativity was incited by the need to shout out, you know, and to say why, and to say, the world looked very strange. And as at 54, I've been through many generations of change. So for me, creativity and activism, I think, I was adopted at 7 by a white family, and I'd asked for a black family. I mean, that was in my birth file. So my identity, a need for identity came before, you know, it came first as I see it, and the loss and trauma of being separated from my birth brothers and sisters who were white, but they were my birth brothers and sisters in care, you know. So yeah, so there was a lot of things that creativity that that I needed to talk about, and the adoption files were closed in those days, and you weren't allowed to ask, and you weren't allowed to know, and it very much felt like everybody else owned my story. And then going through life, it is very much like the Caucasian has owned the black story, and it's a very, very similar kind of feeling, So my activism doesn't come through just because it's black or white. My activism comes through about finding voice, about being heard, about being represented, So for my white brothers and sisters who, unfortunately were born in care, are not alive now. We're not old. This representation is seen within my black community. In my white adopted family, there have been a few deaths, but then they're natural deaths, 84 and and good lives, and I can't count how many deaths I've had on in my community, in the Clarke side of my family, I can't count, in my, my brothers, so there is a misrepresentation, and the suicides as well, I've worked all the way through 25 years I've been doing this, and I started and my publishing company Root and myself, and we got together, and I said I want to create I was hearing it was 1996, and crack cocaine was still rife on the streets, you know what I mean? And I'm walking past, and I'm just starting my poetry or my spoken word or whatever we called it then. And I'm hearing gangs of young guys rapping, and I said to them, let's take it to the page. Let's take it to the stage. Just slow it down a bit. Do it without music, because what you're saying is brilliant. You know what I mean? And we can hear it. Because for me, and for me coming from a place of, I always felt the outside, communicating is really difficult for me. And people go, oh, so performance and poetry was a place where everyone can encapsulate that, so going back to our the misrepresentation or the overrepresentation and misrepresentation, of Black males and Black mental health, there hasn't been one study that we really know that we can all, as a Black community, say this psychologist or this person here has experienced our journey, because there's the mental health that we suffer as a Black community comes in many different forms, so if I mean, it's just so vast, because are we talking about Caribbean? Are we talking about West Indian? Are we talking about Asian? Are we talking about African? Are we, all the different forms because of the transatlantic slavery and because of, non-repatriation and because of the non-apology, it doesn't combat a healing. So we're always trying, but the wound is always open, and I think for for the journey for Black males and Black men as a Black woman, um I I have so much empathy for that, what I mean, when I'm with my partners or I see, I'm not, we see it. As you get older, it becomes more obvious, the divide, and how, if we're not listened to, how do we speak? Because when I'm not listened to, I am aggressive or I've been deemed to be aggressive. Do you know what I mean? Or, it's like, listen to it. There's so many different kind of like nuances, and now these are between Black women and Black men and families. Do you know what I mean? Now this is a problem. Now this is a problem, because how do we then help? I think for us to be more positive about our mental health, we have to all agree that we're living in a world where the emperor wears no clothes. We're living in a world where actually manipulation, lies, and corruption are in politics, in government, in news, in papers, in TikTok, everywhere. Yeah. So I think we need to forgive ourselves because I think we beat ourselves up with the hardest brush, And I think that still goes right back to the mentality of slavery. Sorry. Do you know what I mean? But I think, I think we need to keep coming together, and we need to keep learning and remembering what is forgotten. Because we remember what is forgotten, but we have to teach what is forgotten and we have to learn what is forgotten, and relearn what is forgotten because it gets richer and richer and richer the more you relearn what is forgotten. You're like, wow, and it flows into the way that we can then look and manage our well-being, and enjoy being in outdoor spaces or enjoy being around people. For the well-being and the mental health, it's also we have this very big thing about because we hold on to what we can hold on to of what is forgotten. So some of what some of what is remembered is actually not from us, and it's there to put us down, so it's about this ideology of common knowledge. Common knowledge is rubbish. Yeah, do you understand? But learning learning your knowledge is quite, and learning that for yourself, and then we've got something when we do come together to bring to a table, and it's also about that listening to each other, but listening only comes after healing. If the world continues, because it continues to ignore us. And I think I've said before, racism, everybody is racist at the moment in this world. You know what I mean? This is, racism is a big thing. Everyone. But colorism and, the way that we are being tramped on and trampled on and the way that we're fine in-house, you know what I mean? That has to be looked at too. It really does. Let's strip ourselves bare. Come on, it's time to be brave. Because it's the future we're talking about. And I get really mad, lots of debates, when I'm tired of people saying how the young are this and the young are that. The young are amazing. They're fantastic. They're vibrant. I work with them. I know them. They're hopeful, and you know, they're on the same ceiling as we are, almost, because of the world expanding the way it has. So let's come together. Hi, this piece is called Passengers of Pain. I think we've been talking a lot about trauma and accountability and responsibility and coming together, and let's all getting brave, I think, So um this is just called Passenger Pain, and this is my accountability. His story, the victors, the rich and the right. The white church who told us they would save us, still slave us. The poor inherit the shite. The princess's tale. Femicide, silent screams. System whipped. The hidden generational trauma. My skin, colorism stained from the need to be free. And hers was mine, and hers is hers. 5 generations of motherless boys and girls, passengers of pain. You see, seatbelts were around in my days. They were, but we didn't wear them. Ignorant as shit full of bliss. I didn't have a seatbelt when I became a parent. 19, all the gear, no idea. Gears messed up and trauma strong, black and white, right and wrong, and yeah, I just didn't belong. And I remember holding each child from my womb, my firstborn, my rise and my fall, and then his sister, the one who came and taught unconditional all. But with age comes accountability. And I couldn't admit this journey till today because I'm the driver of my shame. It took so long to find my cloth weaved in victory and sewn in loss. So I became the fast red motor car. I could drive, ride all level and travel all gears. I could take a beating and ask my kids to be quiet. 'Cause if you grasped sledgehammer fists and we fall, mixed up, not good enough, we were asking for it. But love was all I had to give. Love and growing up. A child raising a child together. But love isn't that good if it can't love itself. So as I grew up, they grew in. Aboard my carriage of shame, self-hatred and blame, and what the am I doing here? Always one of those days of terror and beating and terror and pain, beatings and poverties, and the labels I wore drank down the rage, powerless and dumbed down, was told to be grateful and swallow, swallow, swallow. And I thought if I really showed them my warrior face, the motivated mum that turned her story to a page, poured out the trauma, hoping it made everything okay. But now my children have grown and paid, and how do you explain a messed up truth when they're in the passenger seat of your youth? When you grow too young and learn too late, the tower card is checked and paid, and we had no knowledge of this corrosive trait. And I couldn't admit this car crash till today, because I'm the driver of my shame. And it took so long to find my cloth, weaved in victory and sewn in loss. And Maya Angelou says, forgive yourself for not knowing before you learned. This perhaps is now my journey, but Larkin's right. We fuck up our children.